Welcome to the Yemini Report episode number 3. And this week, welcome. We've got something playing back already. I knew there was going to be something. Give me 2 seconds. In fact, it's on my... We're doing it on Telegram as well tonight, so sorry about that. I'll introduce my co-host. Hopefully we have no other technical issues tonight. My awesome co-host, Morgan Jonas. Morgan, welcome. How you doing, mate?
What's happening, my man?
Yeah, it's a little, there's always a technical glitch, especially this week. We're starting the show on all platforms, free speech and not free speech, so watch what you say, mate. But I've even got it on Telegram, I think, going. I don't know. I won't be able to watch it, but I'll see after if it worked.
There's going to be an ironing out process, but I think your audience is quite devoted to you, Avi. Everybody in the chat has nothing but positive comments, so they're willing to withstand a few glitches.
Yes, or it's my haters as well. They're also always willing.
Oh, there's no haters. They don't exist.
They don't exist.
There are lovers in disguise. Don't worry.
They are. Hold on, I got to zoom you in there. Yeah, that's better. You were not on screen, mate. All right. So tonight we have heaps on. I've got. I don't know why I always seem to run out of time, Morgan. I'm like, I had it all ready, and then it's time just seems to have gotten away from me. But that's all right because I'm almost got it up. It's been a wild week. What have you been up to, man?
Just working, living the dream. As you know, we've got some elections around the corner, so things are ramping up politically for everybody in the political space. So juggling work and politics. How about yourself?
Well, juggling 4 kids, a wife, and trying to now do these shows. We've got one on a Tuesday with you, and for those at home, the YeminiReport.com. That's where you can catch up on all these episodes and actually sign up. And on Thursday nights, I do a show with the Rukshan Fernando, the opposition podcast. We do that also 7 o'clock on Thursdays. I'm trying to build up to do shows most nights of the week, but I want to take it slowly so I can build into it. No point rushing it and stuffing it all up. And you can see these little technical issues that I'm already having. We don't want that on a grand scale. So, Rukshan, he lied to me because back when we first started the opposition show, he had this fancy studio and he did all the work. I just had to show up.
Yeah, now you're doing everything.
Now he makes me do everything. Look,
you're the technical support officer. You're the host. It's all on you.
Oh, look at that!
And
I've even got some comments.
Daniels, who has posted a nice message there. Nice profile picture of a kookaburra with an Australian flag. Keep putting those Australian flags in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. There's a bit of a war on Australia Day, as we've seen, and we'll cover that a little bit in the show today. So just like Kerry just did there, be proud of your country and flag. What do you reckon, Avi?
Totally, and that's going to be a bit of our conversation tonight.
Yeah.
So just for those of you tuning in now, we've already got 1,300 here with us. Welcome to the Yemini Report. For now, this is my Tuesday night show, and my co-host on Tuesday nights is the great Morgan Jonas, who is the boss of the Freedom Party. Morgan, where can people find you? Just describe yourself for those people just tuning in now.
Morgan C. Jonas across all platforms. I run a minor political party here in Victoria called the Freedom Party, hoping to make a difference. So all platforms at Morgan C. Jonas. Thank you, Avi.
And we'll actually talk about that in a second because you guys, I think it's kind of part of your group that's had a massive success.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. I see. Here we go. We've got Daniel, my security, messaging. He's excited. He's excited to see us both on screen together.
What's going on, Daniel Jones? You know what, Avi? He even keeps us safe online. When Daniel is in your corner, it doesn't matter if it's in person, defending against an online attack. He is definitely a man whose loyalty is unwavering. So big shout out to Daniel Jones. Thank you for
it's true. You know what? I always feel much safer with Daniel. You can actually probably see on my videos, I'm always braver when Daniel's around.
Absolutely. It's more effective than liquid courage. I'm sure most people would agree.
Yep. So the way we're going to do this, for those of you just tuning in, and we're going to build this up. This is a work in progress, just like my opposition show. The Yemini show, we're going to start on all the platforms. And then for those of you who want to join in on the conversation, we're going to go to we're going to come off all the platforms, and it's only going to be at the yeminireport.com, and you've got to be a Rebel Plus member. It's not very hard to join there. Joining it is what helps pay the bills, but also it allows us to make sure that we're only getting our friends involved in what I would call an intimate conversation. So each show you have the chance to chat with me and whoever's co-hosting. So Tuesday nights with Morgan. It'll be Thursday nights with Rukshan on the Opposition Show. Rukshan's actually started a new show himself, and I don't want to plug it because I know Rukshan watches everything I do, and he copies me. I know he's watching this right now. What do you reckon?
It's like your own personal big brother. Some people are concerned about being watched by the state. You're concerned about being watched by Rukshan.
He doesn't have an original thought, that guy. I'm just trying to force him into calling us. He doesn't want to call us. He's boycotting the show. He asked me if he could call, and I said, get a membership.
RebelNews.com.
Yeah, the yeminireport.com. That's where you can get the membership. So let's. I've got all these fancy buttons tonight, but I had some issues with it. I'm very excited about it, but I've just got to. Look, I've got fancy buttons. Like that. What do you reckon? I reckon I could turn those up. The sound effects they belong a bit louder. So when someone makes a good call, we'll give them a clap. What do you reckon?
That's a really awesome comment. Look at that.
Yeah, that's right.
A very intelligent, patriotic person must have just.
Yeah, are you commenting?
Who that person is, and give him a pay rise.
Are you actually literally commenting on our show while you're?
I'm in the comments, mate. I do it all. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Okay, look, I'm going to just jump straight into. I've got a bunch of things lined up already to chat about tonight. I think the first thing, the most obvious thing we have to start with is here. Have you been following this story?
Yeah, definitely following it. So it's definitely an issue that has been plaguing us incrementally for a very long time in our country, Avi. I think most people would agree, but really starting to hit a crescendo, I would say, here in 2024. So I think the most outrageous aspect of this story, of course, the company in question actually owned by a Chinese equity firm, whereby the directors are staunch supporters of the Chinese Communist Party. So, furthermore to the homegrown attacks that we've experienced.
I just realized when you said that we need to get
saying? Now it's actually coming from foreign sources. So, Avi, what do you make of this? Do you think this is an attempt from a foreign government to undermine our culture, or do you think it's not that sinister? What do you think?
Well, what I reckon, firstly, most importantly, that you know how we've got the new buttons here. I don't think I had one. Yeah, I don't have boo. We need a boo. That's unbelievable. Yeah, we need a boo. Yeah, so I found it interesting, this entire story. So what happened? The timeline yesterday. This Chinese owned, so it's a Hong Kong based, but you're pretty much an expert on Hong Kong. I remember Hong Kong, China was an issue you were super passionate about for a bunch of years there. Yeah. And so, I'm much more confident these days to call a Hong Kong based equity firm or whatever it's called that bought Australian Venue Co. last year. So they've done one Australia Day since they bought it. I guess the first one was too soon after they bought it. And so this is their first proper after trading for a year. This Chinese-owned, Hong Kong-based company decided to cancel Australia Day in their 200 bars and pubs across Australia. Now, I'm confident to call it Chinese owned these days, because Hong Kong, since the days that I was really covering the protests in 2019, COVID killed Hong Kong.
You know,
COVID,
unfortunately, Hong Kong is Chinese owned, and I say that with complete respect to
Hong
all
Kongers.
of
I
our
love the
friends
Hong
in Hong
Kongers.
Kong that are supporting democracy. But Hong Kong is under the thumb of China, and that's just an unfortunate reality. And for any large enterprise to succeed in Hong Kong, they must be friendly and adhering to the standards of the Chinese Communist Party, and that's just a fact.
Yeah, and so when you have a company that is owned in Hong Kong, buys out essentially an Aussie, well, an Aussie, yeah, an Aussie company that owns uh, 200 pubs, and then and then suddenly just decide to tell us that we're not going to celebrate Australia Day. I think even if it was an Aussie owned company, most Aussies, because every stats show that I think it's well over 60% of Aussies support Australia Day on that date. They don't even want to change the date. And I think that's because most Aussies know that it's not really about the date. Because, like, honestly, I remember I started doing these rallies, Australia Day rallies, where where I would go there and interview people. Let's see if I can find like the first Australia Day. Oh crap! Now hold on. Let me just see if I can get into the Rebel YouTube here, because I've got to log in. Uh, I want to see if I can find the Australia. Do you remember I used to do the first Australia Day um, rallies? I can't even. It's
We're going
probably
back a few years, Arby. How many
yeah,
years? Yes, we're going back, what, 8 years, 10 years, maybe more?
yeah, yeah.
It was a long time
Yeah,
ago.
it's
You know,
not letting
lots
me.
happened since then.
Hold on, let's see if I can do it
COVID
without signing
tyranny
in.
and
Let's go.
world events.
Yeah, so back then, even then, people didn't know what they were talking about. Here we go. Let's go Australia Day.
Oh, this is one of your interview
Like back on,
segments.
yeah, yeah. I used to do like I did Australia Day a few years in a
Yeah,
row.
was this from the Tommy Robinson news era, or was this even before
Yeah,
then?
yeah, 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 yeah. Like,
TR News,
oh,
that's
it
right.
might have even been
Shout out to
earlier.
Tommy Robinson, of course,
Let's see if this is an
having
earlier.
his rights and freedoms taken away. If you support Tommy Robinson, then let us know in the chat.
Yeah, you probably be careful what you talk about on the mainstream channels. We're not saying at all that this video or people here support Tommy at all. I am definitely not mates with him. Definitely not mates with him. Let's see. So it's funny because I'm looking through these. Like, I've just searched Australia Day to see there's like the original ones that I ran, but I can't even find the original ones. I can see Avi arrested Australia Day, and then Avi arrested Australia Day. Every Australia Day was bloody arrest. But
It must
Australia
be
Day,
misinformation, Avi. To my knowledge, I can't recall you ever being arrested.
yeah, yeah, me
In
neither.
fact, a personal story. The first time I met Avi, he was in handcuffs, and that's when we were teenagers. But I might save that story for another day. Maybe that will be for Rebel News subscribers only.
No, you can tell my stories. It's an open show. It's all
You want me to
right.
tell the story of how we met?
Yeah, you
You want me
can.
to you
Yeah,
want me to
yeah.
tell it?
Yeah, tell it while I'll search to see if I can find this video, because it's so funny how many years ago I
All
did
right.
this.
All right. So I want to say that the year was maybe it was either the late '90s or at most the early 2000s. I want to say maybe the year 2000. So that's a long time ago now. And Avi and I were teenagers, and there was some type of event. There was ruckus. There was a bit of unrest in Caulfield Park. There was a lot of commotion. There were some fights, and all of a sudden, right, there's this big crowd of people, if you can imagine, in the park, and they get divided like the Dead Sea, and in comes Avi getting arrested by two police officers, and he's getting frog marched out, and everyone's cheering, and that's the first time I met him. So a few things have changed, but obviously not everything has changed. So there you go. My first visual of this guy, handcuffs. Look,
No,
and he's happy about it as well. Look, did you hear that little chuckle? He likes
that
it.
That was definitely a chuckle. It's so weird
And
that I
look at
can't.
what's on his t-shirt, Rebel.
The
It's
rebel.
literally, it's always been
Oh,
that
here
way
we
from
go. I think I found one from 5 years
Rebel
ago.
from the start. There you go, Avi. Plug in your book
Two
for you.
minutes.
Against Australia
Oh,
Day.
here we go. This is one of the first ones. So this is it says 5 years ago, and I honestly think nothing has changed. Here, let's watch this. See,
Against Australia Day.
Yeah,
this is before
What's
Tommy
the problem
Day.
with Australia Day?
I'm not quite sure. I'm not from here. I'm not a local.
What date did the first fleet actually arrive here? Do you know?
No.
I walked up and said, "How you going, guys? What are we
And they
protesting?"
turned around and said they didn't want to speak to you.
Okay, so I'll walk away from them and we'll talk to people that want to talk to us. Or is that illegal?
No, it's not, of course it's not illegal.
So what's the problem?
I've told you what the problem is.
It's time to change.
Okay, so what do you want to change?
I'm finished. Thank you.
To change the date. That's the outcome.
Okay, so once they change the date, you're happy with it?
No.
I've got my own escort,
That
a
was my
socialist. How do you feel about what's going on in Venezuela? What are we protesting today? Do you know?
Against Australia.
What's the problem with the date, exactly?
The date is the first. So on this day, James Cook arrived in Australia.
Do you find it odd that most of your crowd is actually white?
Daniel's
I
there.
got a problem with the butcher's apron. Yeah, it's sort of like a swastika, yeah?
What did you just say?
The butcher's apron is very similar to the swastika.
You're a historian, and you don't know what date the first fleet arrived.
There he is.
Aboriginal land!
So you're telling me he arrived on the 26th of January?
Okay, mate. If you're going to be like saying there's some sort of semantics about dates, and you're going to try and get me out in that bit. I'm
Well,
saying-
you're here because you want to change the date. So there's no
Just back
semantics.
memories,
We
bro.
want to abolish the date, actually.
You're trying to catch me out in some sort of funny interview. Is that what you're trying to do?
I just want to know what we're here to.
So, 26th of January, the day we're currently here talking about. You know what? No, fuck this. I'm not getting caught out.
The unholy alliance between the left and terrorism. Why are there not many Aboriginals here?
Talk to me and make me fucking own you in conversation, okay?
Oh, please don't own me. Like you're an immigrant. What date did they arrive?
Today, the 26th of January.
Are you sure about that?
Who are you?
My name's Avi. Do you want to change the date or do you want to abolish the date
I
in
want to
general?
abolish the date, yeah, and so does everyone here, and that's the message here.
Her honesty is beautiful. So the point I was trying to find that, because I just reminded myself of that day, is that it's not about the date. Most Aussies, if you ask them, if Aussies believed that changing the date itself really would fix the problem, as in there is a part of our society that feel left out and would love to celebrate on another day, I actually think a lot of Aussies would agree to it. In fact, I probably would. I probably would as much as I don't think it's necessary. I would if I thought that really that was the issue. But it's not the issue because it's not the date. Change the date is like the first thing. They want to abolish the date. They hate Australia. They want to take down Australia. It's the same argument when it comes to Israel and the Palestine. It's the same because it's the same people who are pushing the same thing. It's not that they hate elements of society or small issues. Those are the issues that they target to fight on because they believe
right.
it's yeah.
Exactly. And these people represent much broader problems in our country and some major failures of our government, our institutions, and our education system, where, of course, young people are brought up in this country and they're introduced to these Australia-hating concepts from quite a young age. And these programs, of course, in education and throughout the aforementioned institutions are, of course, funded by the taxpayer. So to get rid of this self-hatred that unfortunately has infected Australia like a woke mind virus, we really need to examine all levels of government. You know, where is this anti-Australian propaganda coming from? Who's in favor of it? Who's pushing it? And only when we get to the source can we really tackle the problem. And until we do, we're going to continue seeing scenes like what you reported on.
Yeah, and let's actually see. Let's see what their apology was. Let me see if there was a copy of it everywhere. I don't know why I didn't actually just bring it up on screen. I think Rukshan put it on his Twitter, so I might just check Rukshan's Twitter. As much as I hate to give Rukshan any traffic, we're going to have to do it. I want to read the apology because I think that there's because I'm calling it a fake apology because it's not a real apology. They hate the backlash they're getting, but they're not. Here we go. Rukshan's got it here. The apology is not what I would call real. So, and I'll explain to why and get your reaction on it. We can see that our comments on the weekend have caused both concern and confusion. We sincerely regret that. Our purpose is to reinforce community in our venues, not divide it. It is not for us to tell anyone whether or how to celebrate Australia Day. We acknowledge that, and we apologise for our comments. It certainly wasn't our intention to offend anyone. We employ 9,600 people across the country, and we welcome 15 million patrons each year to our venues. Across our community of team members and patrons, many different views are held, and we acknowledge that. Whether you choose to celebrate Australia Day or not, everyone is welcome in our pubs always. We have been and are always open over Australia Day, and we continue to book the events for patrons. So, firstly, the reason why I call that a non-apology is because, firstly, they're not saying sorry for trying to cancel Australia Day. They're not saying sorry for it. They're saying it's one of those apologies. If you notice in the political world, they do it a lot. I'm sorry if you got offended, because the problem is with you. You took it wrong, Morgan. It's not that I did something wrong. It's that you misunderstood what I'm trying to do. And we didn't misunderstand what they were trying to do. And they were doing all those things, dividing Australia. They were taking a woke position. It backfired. So now they're backpedaling. But they're not saying they're celebrating Australia Day. How do you know when you go to their venues, to one of their 200 venues across the country? How do I know if they're going to fly even an Australian flag in there, or are they going to fly the Chinese flag in there, the Communist Party flag? What are they going to do? I don't know. They're saying that you're allowed to celebrate now in their pub, but they're not going to.
Yeah, well, that's you've raised a lot of pretty interesting questions there, and you're right. It is a half-hearted apology, or probably with no heart whatsoever there. And my interpretation of that entire statement can be translated very simply to, we don't want to lose money, so we're going to publish some type of statement to hopefully exonerate ourselves in the eyes of the Australian public. So yeah, they misread the population. And what these organisations and government departments don't understand is that the world is actually going through a transitional phase right now. The world is rejecting establishment-focused and globalist-style politics in replacement of where we originally came from, which is patriotism, loving our country. The election of Trump is a perfect example of this changing international sentiment. We have Austria electing the Freedom Party and taking measures to make their country great again, standing proudly behind their flag. And as people say, sometimes Australia takes a little bit of time to catch up. But the sentiment out there in the public with working people is we're sick of being dictated to. We're not buying this woke garbage that has been sold by the upper echelons of certain areas of society. And this organization owned by the Chinese equity firm has realized, oh my goodness, we might be losing lots of money, so we better go and publish some fake apology. So everybody at home, I'd encourage you to see through this apology. But furthermore, Avi, this illustrates such an important point here, and that is, let me ask you, Avi, how would you feel going to a pub down the road knowing that you're buying a beer and a percentage of that beer is getting shipped overseas to line the pockets of foreign shareholders? How do you personally feel about that?
And worse than that. And worse than that.
No one told you. No one asked you.
And worse than that. I would argue
that?
it's going to fund our enemies, and that's even worse. I think that we need to support our own economy. People are struggling here, so we shouldn't be shipping any money out. And certainly, if we are shipping money out, it shouldn't be to support our enemy. And unfortunately, Hong Kong has fallen, and this equity fund is beholden to the CCP. And whether they had a direct input into this decision, or it was just their woke board here playing stupid games, going woke, going broke, and they don't care. This apology is not because they upset the Australian public. This is because they felt the wrath of their customers. I know, I've seen the comments, and I've seen a lot of the places I've been to a million times. I just won't go back now. I just won't go back. I know these places, and everybody does. The SB in St Kilda. How many times have you been to the SB in St Kilda?
South Yarra. But yeah, you're right. They upset their customers, but furthermore, they upset the projected immediate profits of their shareholders. And that's who they answer to, people overseas. Now, Avi, when we look at our economy, there's certain services that we must export to overseas and certain capabilities that we don't have here in Australia. But I tell you what, one capability that we have is literally pouring drinks and serving them over a bar. There is absolutely no good reason for these foreign interests to be sinking their teeth into the hospitality industry. And you said it yourself, 15 million patrons, 15 million people buying drinks, buying beer, buying food, a percentage of those sales going overseas. That's unacceptable. Our country's in debt, and we actually need some major Australia First style economic policies in this country because, we can't go on like this. So my message to everyone at home is please do some research. Find out which businesses you're shopping at, which venues are you frequenting. Make sure that they're Australian owned, and any venue that's not, I personally say ditch them.
And it's interesting because there has been I've noticed this was not one of the campaigns that we started. We were doing SaveAustraliaDay.com. A lot of people, almost 9,000 people, I think, signed a petition there. But, we were encouraging people also to learn where their local pub that is part of this group, the Australian Venue Co group, and I think you still shouldn't spend your money there for all the reasons you just listed. But there's a funny campaign that I think a grassroots campaign, which I'm not encouraging, I'm just telling you what it is. They're essentially encouraging people to make bookings on that date and just not show up, and then so they can really feel what it is like to try hit the country on a day that's so sacred to most of us, to the vast majority of us.
Exactly right, Avi. And sometimes people downplay the impact of which politics has on our lives, but this really is a political subject. So for everybody listening at home, I'd like you to understand that the capability of private companies to sell to foreign interests, these capabilities have all been passed in legislation and policy. Large acquisitions have, for foreign acquisitions, I should say, have been rubber stamped by our Foreign Investment Review Board for so many years. And when we think about the expectations of the Australian public, they're completely out of line with what our government has delivered to us in terms of protecting our national assets, our homegrown businesses, and keeping foreign influences at bay. And when we have this Chinese equity firm and the decision to can Australia Day, one really has to ask the question whether or not this company should be registered as some type of foreign influence agent, because to attempt to undermine such an important national holiday, in my opinion, that's the definition of foreign interference, and we need to take it very seriously.
So just jumping to something especially, I know we said we're going to accept calls in the last 20 minutes when we come off the mainstream platforms. So
time
in
flies.
The last 20 minutes for people that want to join us in a conversation a bit like the one that we're about to have, because we've got someone I recognize in our waiting room that I'm going to bring in now. But for the rest of you who do want to join us in the last 20 minutes, the YeminiReport.com, that's where we're going to be. You have to be signed in, Rebel Plus member. Become a member. You'll have a few minutes when we're changing over to become a member, and you can join us just like what our old mate Daniel, the security guard, is doing right now. Daniel, how you going, mate?
The man, the myth.
Good. How are you guys?
The man with the plan, the man who you do not want to mess with, Daniel Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, make him feel welcome. Give him a round of applause.
Let's get some comments for Daniel. It's funny because the haters just suddenly stopped commenting. Daniel, what did you do?
He showed up.
Normally, on some of these Facebook groups and that, you'll see there's 3 comments, 4 comments. Then they mention my name and it goes to like 150 comments, and they post photos of me from 12, 15 years ago. They seem to have saved on their computer in a file so they can call it up at the click of a finger. It's really disturbing behaviour, real. I mean, I find it fun.
Daniel, I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one that has photos of you from 15 years ago on my computer.
Yeah, they've got some really old ones from like back when I was playing in heavy metal and goth bands and stuff. I mean, really, really, really old stuff.
Is that before
Daniel,
you were
why
scary?
do you think
Because
they're
you
so
sounded
obsessed
scary
with you?
then too.
Yeah, I look back at those photos. They're very scary for all the wrong reasons.
How you been,
you
man?
know, I think they're just, obviously there's an intimidation factor. Not from you. They're intimidated, and it's a really strange mechanism of trying to undermine someone. Digging up old photos, trying to make fun of you. But what I can tell everyone at home is that when it comes to Daniel, there's no stuffs given. You can come at him online. You can make fun of him. He's going to keep moving forward. He's going to keep doing his job. This sort of thing doesn't work. So these people are more than welcome to keep wasting their time. But our man Daniel Jones, it's gonna take more than that to unnerve him. I can tell you that, and I know this guy very well. So
Daniel,
I actually find it humorous.
he actually likes it. I know.
I know. I'll tell you a little story I'll tell you a little story while we have Daniel here with us, and then we'll jump back to the news. But so people know, this is how you can call in. You could be Daniel mine. Oh, he's on that side. You could be just like Daniel there at the end. Once we go into the private room, which is in the last 10 or 20 minutes.
We love you, Daniel.
That is at the YeminiReport.com. But Daniel, I remember one day I'd been attacked one of the many times you've jumped in, and we get back, everything's done, it's all sorted, and we get back and you go to me, Avi, I actually feel a bit guilty charging for today. And I go, why is that? Like, I feel like that's the day you earned your keep. And you go, I just had way too much fun.
I think some of them are fun days.
I think
it's
your actual wording
I like about it.
I think your actual wording was, I think it should be illegal to have that much fun at work.
Sounds like something I would have said for a laugh.
How have you been, mate? What have you been up to?
Been good. Just been working out. I come back from a holiday from Vietnam and Cambodia.
I know, because we tried to get you to work a couple of times, and there you were slacking. Do you want to apologise to the audience for putting my life in danger by daring to take a holiday?
I do apologise for that. In my defence, I did try to bring the hand grenades and rocket launchers back with me, but I didn't get through customs. Not through any lack of trying. I'm going to get a knock any minute from the Australian Federal Police on the door for that comment, I'm sure.
It was all in good humour. We are on. We
satire.
It's
satire.
Daniel, somebody just asked in the comments if you support Trump. Do you support Trump?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Trump. I initially didn't like him. When he first ran, I thought it was a joke. I'm like, around about that time, I thought it was a joke. I thought it made a mockery of the system. But then the more he talked, I'm like, oh, he's actually he's a lot more genuine than all the other candidates. And he's growing on me. I support him now. If I was in America, I would have voted for him.
People are asking what's your height and weight. I don't know if this is... guys, he has a girlfriend. He was away on holiday with his girlfriend. I think we should put that out there.
To answer that, 6'2", 6'3", and about 120 kilos.
In comparison to you, where do I sit? I'm about I'm about nipple height, yeah?
I was going to say about nipples, give or take.
That's why you guys make a great team, One does the talking and the other, takes care of the other things that need to be taken care of.
Does
Well-
the staring.
Daniel, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for calling in, and
It's all right.
thanks for having my back, and thanks for coming back, to be honest, because I feel like I have a few gigs coming up that we may need you.
I'll be there. I was going to say on the Australia Day thing with the Chinese stuff, a lot of people don't believe this when I tell them. I do read books. I actually can read the little squiggles. And I would recommend everyone read a book, Unrestricted Warfare, by two Chinese lieutenants, and a book, Spies and Lies, by Alex Josky. Unrestricted Warfare really points out how they can't fight America or the West with weapons. So it's about attacking through financial means, cyber means, undermining governments. And Alex Josky goes into how the Chinese spies have infiltrated the West through media, influence campaigns. And I imagine those CEOs would be part of all of that, bought off through influence campaigns to actually then buy property, influence the Australian public to change the opinion towards a more Chinese communist-friendly opinion.
Someone says Daniel looks like he's taking his son to school when he's with Avi. That's kind of weird because I do call you daddy when we do that. All jokes aside, is that the book?
Read is Stealth War by former General Brigadier Robert Spalding. Covers all the topics as well. Pretty easy read. Only like 210 pages. Just gives a really good sort of general overview of how the Chinese government exerts soft power around the world to kind of shape culture and to promote advantageous diplomacy and economics and so forth. So for anyone interested at home, there's a few suggestions for some bedtime reading.
I'll put that book on my list for the next book, I think.
Daniel,
he's a good guy.
Thank you for joining us, mate. We're going to carry
No
on with
worries,
the
thank
show. Was it an easy experience dialing up on this link with that button?
Very easy. Just put the name in, hit join, and boom. In the waiting room until you called in. Nice and easy.
In the waiting
I'm
room,
pretty
in the
technologically
waiting room, do you
illiterate.
see us?
Yeah. You come up on the top of my screen, and I'm pretty technologically illiterate. So
I know, that's
the
why
fact that I
it was
got
a
in,
test.
anyone can do it.
Well, thanks, Daniel. We'll
no worries. Thank you.
See you soon.
Catch you soon.
See you, mate.
What a bloody legend. If Daniel can do it, anyone can. The YeminiReport.com, guys. Sign up. And in the last 10 to 20 minutes, I think we'll grow over time as we have more people. We'll give everyone a chance to have a chat at the end. But for now, let's continue going. Oh, look at this MCJ report. Just like such a good guy, that one.
And that guy needs to be on the payroll, Avi. What do you reckon? Just
MCJ, yeah, 100%.
Fostering the live stream, getting everyone engaged, making sure people are happy.
Yeah. He's right. We should actually get rid of Rukshan, fire him, and get this guy going. Here we go. Social media, bam, ram through. Let's get a quick reaction to this because this is already kind of old news. It happened, I think, Thursday night. Gosh, they rammed through so much legislation. Some really dangerous legislation recently has gone through, and I'll put this in with one of them. I'm trying to unpack a bit of the legislation that has passed. There's a lot of attacks on freedom of speech in Australia at the moment, and just in the last batch of legislation, both federally and even here in the state of Victoria, there's a bunch of things that and I'm trying to think off the top of my head because I know I actually have to look at that legislation to be careful. There's the Racial Discrimination Act or parts of it have changed, so it's to cover more people. And now, if you misgender, so I'm trying to get advice on it at the moment, just because it's such fresh legislation. If you misgender somebody, you could end up in front of a court, and if the courts are anything to go by at the moment, we've been seeing how someone like Pauline Hanson has been taken and found essentially to have breached, and I'm pretty sure that Racial Discrimination Act is under 18C as well, or it's under the state anyways, there's a bunch of legislation. This is one of them. Social media ban rammed through Australian Parliament despite privacy concerns. So obviously they did put in, they did do something about claiming that there is no digital ID attached to it, because that's all the Liberal Party actually fought for. Ridiculous, the fact that the Liberal Party supported this piece of rubbish legislation. What's your reaction to it?
Well, I think the real fact of the matter here is most Australians, when presented with the facts, would probably agree that parenting should be left up to parents. The further broadening of the state, just seeping into everybody's lives, into people's homes and their living rooms, is unacceptable, and we don't need this big overarching government. Social media, of course, can be very damaging for young people, and it's parents' responsibility to keep their children safe. But on the other hand, there's also instances where young people are able to use social media for good and for projects and so forth. So it can definitely be a double-edged sword. And furthermore, to that point, we don't know where the data is going. So we have privacy concerns, concerns about where our biometric data may end up. And, you know, despite the claim that the data will be wiped from the system, you know, we just don't know. And so I just think that any further powers granted to the government in these types of arenas, I don't think can possibly be a good thing. It's just more regulation, more use of it, more spending of our taxpayer money. It's just too much, Harvey. What do you reckon?
Yeah, look, the last person I'll trust with any of it is the government. I don't
do you reckon replacing with Elon Musk?
Yeah, I reckon Dodge. I think we need Dodge, Australian Dodge. But yeah, I don't trust him. I think that the idea that the Liberal Party, you know, the way that they save-faced at the end of it, especially when their own base were condemning it.
I just got to correct you on one thing. It's the illiberal party.
Illiberal Party, sorry, my bad. You're right. Just stand corrected. But the fact that their entire justification is that they fought for some rubbish clause in there or amendment. It's an amendment within it saying that there would be no
data capture.
Sorry?
I believe it was no data capture, like no storing.
Yeah, it might be in here. Let's hear this one. Is going to play? Hold on. Let's see if this lets me play. I might have to go over. Oh, it's always playing funny buggers. The fact that it was along those lines, that's how they protected us, is a joke, because how will they? So either it's going to fail because they can't possibly implement it if there is no digital ID, if they don't data capture it, they don't take your license. So either it doesn't work, or there's going to be a workaround it. And I think there's going to be a workaround it. I think it is going to be implemented. I think that social media companies are going to find a way that it still complies with the amendment, but ends up doing exactly what the amendment was intended to protect us from. And that's my problem with the Liberal Party. They're so short-sighted. I think Peter Dutton has a lot of good views on many issues. On censorship, he is almost as bad as Labor. He's almost as bad as Labor. Mind you, I'm surprised he didn't support the mis and disinformation bill. I think he realised that was a step too far. Remember, the and I keep saying this, the E-Safety Commissioner was actually a Liberal Party-born program. She's a woke, nutty leftist, a loony leftist in charge of the Ministry of Truth, presented to you, brought to you by the Liberal Party. So the fact that the Liberal Party didn't support the mis and disinformation bill was only because of polling. They read the room, they realised they're going to look like, I feel like, my interpretation of it was, they felt in the 11th hour that they're going to look ridiculous if they just agree to it, because they're going to look ridiculous if they pull out of it, because they've been supporting it the whole time, but they had to save face and pretend like they were fighting for us. And so they said, I heard the privacy concerns. So we're going to ensure that those concerns are dealt with this amendment. But no. And I'm not someone, like, I've got teenage kids. I don't think that they should be on social media under the age of 16. I agree with you on that. But I absolutely disagree with giving the government that power. Only because when the government pretend like this is why they need these extra powers because they're going to do A, I promise you, yeah, they might do A, but A is not really what they're trying to work on. It's B, C, and D. And we saw that through COVID. How many counter-terrorism laws were used against the citizens, against the population. If you talked to me before COVID, to be honest, I probably would have supported this as well. Because I would have believed him. That this was just about stopping under 16s from using social media. I think social media is a major problem. It is a disease for kids. It is an absolute disease, even for adults. But for kids, it's super dangerous. And I think that, you know, some apps are even worse than others. TikTok, I think, is horrible. And I think it's by design. It's designed to ruin the West. It's very different TikTok here, the Chinese app TikTok here and TikTok in China. Snapchat, by the way, is probably one of the worst for some of the reasons that they present as to why they need to protect us from. But I think Snapchat is actually not on the list. Snapchat is exempt, and I think YouTube at the end was also exempt. Anyways, it's a load of rubbish, and the government, the last person I would trust is the government with more powers under the guise of protecting our children. You know what? As a parent, it's my job to protect my children, not yours.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's other problems that can emerge from this social media ban and the collecting of biometric data, which is the social media companies now need to implement this degree of capability across their platforms. We don't know the allocation of capital that will be required, but I'm sure it's of a very high magnitude. So chances are the social media companies will comply because, of course, they want to keep doing business in Australia. But should the government introduce further measures down the road and enshrine in law the conditions of which social media companies must adhere to do business in Australia, it's completely foreseeable that certain platforms, maybe X, maybe Facebook, maybe YouTube, may just throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, the struggle and cost of doing business in Australia is simply too much, and they may remove their services from Australia completely. And the disaster of that would be the fact that independent members of society have been given a voice through social media replacing the town square, allowing platforms like Rebel News to build up. Social media allowed me to run 2 entire political campaigns. So should social media in the end pack up in Australia, the people who will hurt the most are the citizens, the little guy, those who seek to gather numbers to affect change in this country. It's the people that will suffer, not the bureaucrats and not those in power. And we need to be mindful of that potential.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because, again, probably a bit later, maybe even during COVID, you remember when Trump was talking about TikTok, banning TikTok, and I absolutely was on board with that because I believe TikTok is a threat, a national security threat. So from a different position, and I do think that it's, like I said before, by design, the kind of content that they're fed in Australia compared to China. But on top of that, I think it's got the additional layer of problem because, you know, the CCP is hostile to us. They're not our friends. They are the enemy. And one day that's all going to come to a head. And they're using TikTok, and they will use TikTok against us. So I was supporting the ban back then. But that now, and I'm somebody that's banned on TikTok. I got banned, I think my interview of Neil Mitchell was what got me banned off TikTok. Go figure. That when Neil Mitchell interviewed,
did you criticize the Chinese Communist Party?
Sorry?
Did you criticize the Chinese Communist Party?
Did I talk about
like what was it that got you banned? Like,
yeah, it's honestly the algorithm there is ridiculous. I'm telling you, the problem with TikTok is, so you've got to have certain political views that are okay, even if they're extreme. If it's the right ones, they let you stay.
Yeah.
So it is full of Israel hatred, but if you defend Israel,
Yeah, I remember seeing like some studies showing on TikTok specifically
one of the worst
people who were like, you know, anti-Israel and like, you know, pro Hamas or whatever, getting way more coverage on TikTok as opposed to like the ratio was a lot more balanced on other platforms. And so,
you get banned a lot
TikTok
easier on
attracts these types of people, or is there an internal algorithm that's promoting, you know, a certain political agenda?
Of course, and if you think about it deeper, you got to remember, like, China is part of the axis of evil, you know, so their alignment is with, you know, Iran, Russia, North Korea. Those are the big ones, right?
Their proxies, you know.
And then all their proxies around the world. So they are the enemy. No matter how you feel about specific conflicts, those guys are really that group together one day. And they're forming. You see it happening as we speak. Hopefully, Trump is gonna back that down. He's gonna fix that. You know, he's gonna set us back on the right path. I think they've all had it easy in the last 4 years. Look what they were up against: Biden, Harris, and the loony left, who were too worried about adding 50 new genders than national security. But I do think it's a deeper problem. With regards to the TikTok ban, I have walked back that position only because I feel like I don't trust our government. If we give them the license to ban TikTok, even under national security, they will then ban X under the guise of national security. They'll find a way to twist whatever they're going to use for TikTok, and the population will already be used to it, prepared with, you know, for the idea of having social media platforms banned, that they will then move in on X. I'm grateful to God that Elon Musk is now going to officially be a part of the US government in the next administration. So I think that X in Australia, in the West, is officially safe for the next 4 years, which is a major source of relief for me, because I look at X and I think, you know, I'm somebody that got banned off TikTok. Well, that was just ridiculous. But Facebook, I can't have a personal page on Facebook. I haven't had a personal page for years. I lost 1 million followers on Facebook. And I know what, and back then when I first had it, I know what it's like as a content creator. You know, this is my, not only my passion, it's also my bread and butter. Like, if I lose all my platforms, then, you know, who's going to hire me to spread a message? You know, Rebel News can't afford to pay me if I don't get people signing up to memberships or supporting our, you know, my reporting, donating to my reporting. So yes, guys, go to the YeminiReport.com, sign up at Rebel News Plus, and then you can join us in a private conversation there, because it actually does keep the lights on. But no one will hire me if I can't be anywhere. And that is a real fear that I've lived with for many years. And when I first got kicked off Facebook, it was a major hit, but I just kept going. I guess I'm one of those people that just don't give up. And even though it was a massive, like I said, I lost around 1 million followers between my pages, and I just kept going. I just started new on all the platforms, and I made this rule, and I always tell everyone, never rely on one platform. Put it across everywhere.
100%.
And I rebuilt it, but it's always in my head thinking, what if YouTube kicks me off? What if, YouTube demonetizes, so I can't make money there, but, you know, the platform.
Are you permanently demonetized on YouTube?
Yeah. No money on YouTube. And it's crazy because jihad, so I got deplatformed because we were considered, you know, the counter-jihad movement at the time. We were totally banned because you had people like Mohammed Hijab, you know, leading the charges as these moderate Muslims to have us cancelled because we were spreading hate, division, and fear and Islamophobia. Now those same people that led the charge are getting paid on YouTube millions of dollars to spread the worst vile blood libels, the worst Jew hatred. They're getting paid. And the crazy thing is, it was Jewish organizations like the ADL in America and the Anti-Defamation League, but mostly the ADL in America, that was kind of the backbone of this censorship and these mass cancellations to people like me, at the behest of what today I think they realize, crap, these guys are not really our friends. The people that help make it possible. So like the ADL, who were getting, cheered on by, forget about the mainstream media and all that, by the establishment, but cheered on by Islamo-fascists. And they were taking Islamo-fascists seriously because they were their multi-faith, interfaith friends. And today, the irony of it all is, yes, I can't make money on it talking, I think even those organizations realize I'm pretty center. I'm certainly not far right. The far right freaking hate me and the far left hate me. But I think a lot of people on center left and center right realize that the problem were on the fringes. But these Jewish organizations, the ADL was, somebody says the ADL is anti-white. Absolutely, the ADL is anti-white. And I actually confronted, his name?
Jonathan Greenblatt.
Jonathan Greenblatt last year in Davos. And, it was a bit of a dark time for me, so I don't think I did such a great job at it. I might get another crack at it this year.
So I just want to touch on something. So you think the ADL is anti-white?
Yep.
What has led you to taking that position? Just out of curiosity. I don't know a great deal about the ADL.
When we say that,
ADL stands for the Anti-Defamation League, and
so they pretend
shut down a lot of people on a lot of platforms, highly criticised, and probably for good reason in a lot of instances.
Yep. So they purport to stand and fight anti-Semitism. That's kind of their mission.
Sort of their platform, right?
Sorry.
Sort of like their platform, like that.
Their mission statement is really to fight.
They claim to be their reason for existing, right?
Their mission statement is to fight anti-Semitism, and it might be true as in that's their motive for everything. So then, when they fought for Islamophobia, for example, that was their main push for a few years there. They forget about anti-Semitism. They were talking a lot more about Islamophobia than anti-Semitism, and the reason why I think they were doing that was because then they thought, if we build these friendships with these Islamists, what turned out to be Islamists, because it was clear as day back then they were Islamists. And so when they align themselves with Islamists to shut down, let's say, Jews, or not even Jews, but they shut down many people, anyone that criticized radical Islamist ideas or the ideology or discussed Islam at all, they shut them down. And then when they were hoping that when Jews were suddenly hated on, that those same people would have their backs, but it turned out that the people that they thought would have their backs were actually the people generating most of the hate. And that's what you see today. When I say, are they anti-white, I think they're typical. They play that the woke anti-white culture war game. Is Jonathan Greenblatt really just personally anti-white? Probably not. I think he cares. His mission statement is about Jews. He feels like he can get in with the left. He probably is also a leftist, like establishment Jews like that. So secular Jews are often quite leftist in nature. Today being left,
the ADL is a very influential organization, and they have a lot of buying power behind them, and can really enact these types of campaigns on a whole other level. It can be so you would say overall, Avi, is, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but these organizations, ADL, and there's some others like them, would you say overall they have taken away from the overall cause of personal liberty in the West specifically, rather than protecting people under their mission statement? What do you think?
Absolutely, and I'd go further than that. I would say that the ADL caused a lot of anti-Semitism. They also, and this was one of the things
that cries sheep in a way, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You want to say there's anti-Semitism in places where it's not, it's gonna tick people off. People are gonna get frustrated, and direct their frustration towards the those who are permeating the misinformation, right?
Yeah, and then the other problem was that they essentially had a lot of our allies, our true allies, like one that you mentioned before that we are not friends with, and had them banned and had them deplatformed in the name of protecting what they were calling, stopping Islamophobia, but really they were hurting people that were actually calling out what even to the ADL has somewhat become clearer since October 7, when they see the people every single week marching in the streets calling for the annihilation of the entire Jewish population. And I know, like, I talk to a lot of Orthodox Jews. In fact, I got a few brothers that are rabbis. The ADL is not a liked, especially before October 7, it was not a liked institution within the Orthodox Jewish community. Now, the ADL since October 7 has suddenly, imagine that. You've been the organization combating fake anti-Semitism for years. Like, you almost had to create your own anti-Semitism to keep you busy. And then suddenly October 7 happens and real anti-Semitism hits and you're on the forefront of it. And it's annoying that these guys are somehow our voice. These guys should be pushed to the back. They should be, and I think Jews, like the Jewish community, should not be fooled by them and realize that they are half the problem. We need people that are anti-censorship, that are a good voice for the Jewish community to stand and make our case, the Jewish community or Israel, whatever it is. But do not get the guys that, one, knock down all our allies or many of our allies. Don't use anti-white hatred, bigotry in our name. Don't do that. I think that it hurts us. It hurts us more than it ever helps us.
Yeah,
and I'm with everybody. I ban the ADL. that was trending for a while.
Maybe someone out there should be suing the Anti-Defamation League for defamation on a certain cause. I mean, I'm not encouraging anyone to do that. This is not legal advice, but it'd be pretty interesting to know who the biggest donors are to the ADL. Clearly, it's not an organization that produces some type of product. They're not getting their funding from selling
No, there's a lot of donors in it.
I think mugs. So, who are their biggest donors? And are their biggest donors happy with the direction of the organization and what's transpired?
I think the problem is that a lot of their donors. Look, I don't know before October 7. I know since October 7, I think they're fooling a lot of Jews.
We're theorizing here a little bit, Avi. That's the truth.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of Jews that do support him, especially since October 7, only because Jews are under attack and they look at the ADL and they see them always in the headline in the mainstream media, always there. They're given a platform to make the case. The problem is they are not the ones that should be making the case. We need people that are, like I said, principled, can make the case without trying to shut everyone else down. That's it. We don't need to silence everyone to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. If that's what you have to do, it means you're not making a good argument. I think our enemies are our best. Our enemies having a voice is the best thing that can happen because they're nuts.
Well, they end up exposing themselves in the end, and I'd just like to say that, to people in general, that calling for censorship of views that you don't like, or furthermore, views that are repugnant, highly offensive, it is counterproductive to the cause at hand, because when people who have these views are shut down, all right, I'm not saying I support anyone with those sort of extreme views, but
absolutely
they become
not.
More enraged, more emboldened, they get shoved further underground, they get more extreme, their propaganda becomes more intense, more unhinged. And this is exactly how extremists are made. When you suppress a portion of society, they get angry, and eventually there's going to be some type of conflict. So Avi would probably agree that we just want to see a free marketplace of ideas. Let them put their terrible ideas out there into the universe, and let's defeat them with facts and logic and common sense. And we see these rallies every weekend in the city, Avi, but also, shutting down the port of Melbourne, costing our city and commerce millions upon millions of dollars. These people are actually exposing themselves, and such a large portion of the general public looks at these saboteurs, these people who I say are really committing acts of civil unrest, and are saying, what in the world are these people doing? We're footing the bill. These people are vandalizing shops. So I think it's important for that to be showcased. And
on that note, it's funny because I didn't even realize I forgot that the next link that I'd already brought up was actually that Mohammed Hijab, which is one of the people I was talking about.
Isn't he actually like a distant cousin of yours, Avi?
Yeah, why? Because he looks like me. And
yeah,
he's like what is he? I think he might. Is he Kurd? No, he's not Kurdish. I know the other guys are Kurdish. I don't know. He's.
There's your other friend, Jackson Hinkle. So these two guys here are like two of Avi's favorite people in the entire world. He may not tell you that, but that's why I'm here to tell you his embarrassing friendships.
These guys are certainly my biggest fans. But it's funny because this is exactly what was so obviously going to happen. So you have an Islamist, Sunni Islamist, who's supporting now. So the only thing that these guys have in common is that they both hate Jews. That's it. That's the only thing. But there's a lot of people that were connected by that.
But that's a strong hatred, though, and the hateful in the world kind of use that to unite. This is a really interesting post that you're showing on the screen there, Avi. There's a fair bit to unpack in it. Actually.
Yeah. So basically, these are some of the loudest voices of anti-Israel rhetoric online since October 7th. So rallying against Israel, justifying October 7. There's some of the most horrible things come out of these two, and they're in alignment. But then suddenly, as we have seen in the last couple of days, the Syrian war is reignited. And these guys, because the Jews are not involved, no matter what they claim. Well, the Jews are kind of involved. I'll tell you how in a second. Not the way that these guys purport. So, but now that it's the civil war back in Syria is back on. So where you have on one side the Assad regime, which is aligned with Iran and Hezbollah, the proxies of Iran, and then obviously Russia. And then on the other side, you have Islamist Sunni rebels, which are like ISIS. In fact, they're ISIS or Al Qaeda. There's different ones there that are involved. But it's all the same sort of thing. And then there's like a third group, which are the Kurdish rebels, which they're actually all right. They're just fighting for Kurdistan. So most of them are all right. I think there are terrorist groups of Kurdish, but most of the Kurdish groups, from what I know, is all right. And what they're fighting for is something that I actually believe in. These people are a lot more ancient than these, when you want to talk about colonization. Mohammed Hijab's family, they were the original colonizers. If you look at the entire Arabia, it was colonized. And so the Kurds are a lot more ancient than them. Anyways, but right now, the Kurds I don't think they'll probably get involved, but at the moment, that's not the main part of the conflict. What you have now is the Turkish-backed ISIS, Al-Qaeda groups versus Assad, Iran, and Russia. Now, personally, both sides in that fight are absolutely evil. When you forget about Russia's involvement, and forget about even Assad himself, the involvement of Iran and their proxies, Hezbollah, really it's a religious conflict. So that's the thing. When people act like the Middle East is all Israel, if Israel just got out of the Middle East, if you got rid of Israel, wipe it off the map like you all dream, and like the Middle East is suddenly going to become this utopia of love and peace, that's all the problem. Well, you don't actually understand the Middle East at all. Because when the Jews are gone, really between them, there's only one thing that they agree on. That's the hatred of the Jews. But beyond the Jews, they hate each other. And so you have the Sunnis and the Shia. The Shia are only 15%. That's Iran and their proxies, so the Houthis and Hezbollah. And on the other side, the Sunnis make up 85% of Islam, and the radical ones, the Wahhabi or whatever, they're like the Al Qaeda, ISIS, all that group. So it's a religious conflict that really comes down to who followed which prophet after Muhammad.
Warring factions.
Warring factions. But they both have the same tactics. They're both a stain on humanity in 2024. They deserve each other. The only innocent victims in their conflict, keep the Kurds out. As soon as the Kurds come in, then I would back one side. In that fight, they deserve each other. It's the innocent victims in the innocent civilians in the middle that are going to get killed, and nobody's going to be rallying for them. In fact, this weekend, did you see anyone rallying for the civilians that were bombed already bombed from this conflict? No. Russia already started bombing. Nobody cares because
the civilian death count is starting to spiral.
And the Syrian death count over the years is way bigger than anything.
That of course, is one of the very sad realities of conflict. The civilian casualties that occur.
Absolutely, but in this conflict, the numbers are way greater, and nobody marches for them because you don't have Jews in there. Now, the reason why I said to you that I think the Jews
Israel really fires people up, Harvey, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and you've got to ask yourself why. But in this case, the reason why it's true to an extent that Israel had something to do with it is because I think the only reason why the rebels are feeling empowered now to go and pick this fight is because Hezbollah picked a war with Israel. Israel wiped out their command, took out so much of their firepower that they're not the same fighting force that they were. And, the Assad regime relied on Hezbollah. Hezbollah killed a lot of Muslims. Everybody's crying about Israel. The amount of Muslims that Hezbollah, that terrorist group that Israel just essentially, to a degree, disarmed. So they're not an effective fighting force. They don't scare. The rebels are just walking in now. You see, they've taken essentially reports of taking over Aleppo, like they're just walking in, and there's no real resistance because Israel took out Hezbollah. But Israel didn't do it for the rebels. Israel did it to protect their own borders. Hezbollah picked a fight, started firing those rockets on October 8 was the first rockets that they fired after October 7, and then Israel only began the real war in Lebanon a couple months ago. It only took a couple of months for Israel to really decapitate Hezbollah, which now has opened the door for these rebels to take on the Assad regime. Who do I want
to? There's always going to be opportunism in these types of conflicts, and the same really happened in Chinese civil war around the time of World War II with the nationalists versus the communists, and of course the nationalists taking the brunt of damage from the Japanese, setting up a very opportunistic climate for the communists to gain ground in China. And of course they were the same people from the same land as it is over there in the Middle East, but with opposing ideologies. And that's the it's been that way since the dawn of human existence. And I just think, Harvey, that the West shouldn't be attempting any type of regime change, as much as I'd love to see Iran go back to, say, pre-1979, which would have been a wonderful place to visit with lots of freedoms, and people were free mostly to live their life how they wanted. I think that, regime change and getting too involved in that region is just a recipe for disaster, and we're going to be paying the debts for a long time on that. So,
yeah, I agree. Look, I hope that the Iranian people rise up and take the opportunity as well to overthrow their own government and bring back Iran to the position that they were prior the revolution, the Islamic Revolution, because Iran was what some would call the Paris of the Middle East. If you look at pre the revolution, Iran looked like an amazing place to be. But the funniest thing about this story, so the honeymoon period is officially over, because suddenly now that this war is kicked off again, these two allies, so may Allah protect the people of Syria, when he's saying that. The funny thing is, you look at what he's saying and you think, why is Jackson Hickle so upset that he's talking about Allah protecting the people. Like, what's offensive in what he's saying? But to him, it means he's taking a side, which he definitely is taking the side of the Turk Islamists, because that's who Mohammed Hijab aligns himself with. So Jackson Hickle reads the nuance. It's funny how they actually are very good at reading nuance. When it doesn't come to Israel, they suddenly understand nuance. But he reads that, he knows what that means, and so he goes. Then finally, Jackson Hickle says what we've all been saying forever is, morbidly obese, okay, but Londonistani terrorist supporter. Isn't that funny? Suddenly Jackson Hickle doesn't mind the Islamophobia that he's been crying about. You remember? Because calling Londonistani, these people used to tell us that was Islamophobia. But
he's really just parroting like Chinese Communist Party talking points there, and I look
he's
at that
denying.
tweet,
He's denying that.
Obviously, he's got some interesting, creative insults, but really, this is the foreign policy of the Chinese government. So, not saying there's any link between him and them, but it's, he's picked his sort of, Russia, China, Iran team, and that just seems to be.
And the team is they deny.
And he makes a lot of money off his tweets, Harvey. I have no doubt.
Well, Jackson Hickle is which makes no sense. He's a self-described communist, and before Trump won, he called himself a communist mugger.
He's
I don't think he's very happy with how Trump is going. But if you couldn't see where Trump is doing exactly what he said he would do the whole campaign. The fact that America voted for him because they like what he was saying. But so he's saying that that hijab supports the Uyghur terrorists in China. So I guess, suddenly when it comes to China, the Uyghurs are terrorists. So the Muslims there are terrorists, but everywhere else they're not. And then here he goes, now you support Al-Qaeda terrorists in Syria. So he's trying to say that both the Uyghurs are like Al-Qaeda, which is a very big stretch. How often have you seen Uyghurs beheading people?
Position.
Of course. But they're just anti-religion. Remember, the Chinese government is no friend of any religion.
Yeah, they pretty much discriminate against all religions quite equally. Yeah. So but the
Uyghurs have it.
The Uyghurs is sort of equal.
The Uyghurs have it particularly tough there, just because of their numbers.
They do, but also the Falun Gong and
the Falun Gong. Yeah.
Christians are persecuted in China as well, horrendously.
Absolutely. Yep. And will you keep the same energy when ISIS is beheading kids in Aleppo again? And Jackson Hickle, I agree with you on that point. Now the question is, I hope you keep that same energy for October 7 in the way that Hamas was acting exactly like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. But it's so selective. These people literally only care about it's selective outrage, selective moral outrage over the conflicts, and even between them, when it becomes confusing, they're selective about their outrage. Same as Mohammed Hijab. All right, let's move on. On that,
it's almost like they're agents of a foreign access. When you look at these people's tweets and you realize the geopolitical coalitions and alliances of which their tweets inherently support every single day, you think to yourself, is this just a individual who's decided to be edgy, inciting with the enemy? Are they on the payroll? You don't really have the answer to these questions, but it's something.
I think I think that there's often different motivations. Some of them are just ideological. Hijab, I imagine, is ideological with a mix of he enjoys the sound of his own voice. He enjoys attention or whatever.
100%. He's not over there. If you're not over there, you're not on the ground. It's like
you're not fighting.
Sort of seeking to paint oneself as somebody who has these nuanced positions on these foreign wars of which they know nothing about. That is the definition of pseudo intellectualism and people really masquerading and attempting to come across as more knowledgeable and more intelligent than what they really are, but in reality they don't know.
Yeah,
they don't understand it. They just want to make themselves sound important, and I see through the BS. I hope a lot of other people do as well.
I think people are starting to see it. I think that little interaction went quite viral because people are going, okay, now we know what's happening. Anyways, we're moving on to Donald Trump. Did you see his statement today?
Yeah,
everybody is talking about the hostages who are being held so violently, inhumanely, and against the will of the entire world in the Middle East. But it is all talk and no action. Please let this truth serve to represent that if the hostages are not released prior to January 20, 2025, the date that I proudly assume office as President of the United States, there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East. And for those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity, those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the United States of America. Release the hostages now. What was your reaction when you saw that one?
To be honest, Avi, I'm not surprised. Like that's just the type of leader that Trump is. He's a man of moral clarity. He's a great leader. America flourished under his leadership. He's made his position very clear on the past, in the past in regards to this conflict and other conflicts that include but are not limited to the conflict in Ukraine. And global leaders know that he's not a man that jokes around. Okay, so to presume that Donald Trump is bluffing when he makes these types of statements is beyond playing with fire. So I think that the entire world should really take the statement of the president on face value, and hopefully the leaders of Hamas take it seriously, because I can tell you it will not be at all in their interest if they don't. That's my opinion. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he's doing exactly what he said. And anyone that's surprised by what he's saying now just hasn't been paying attention. Trump has
always been his message, Avi. Always.
Been absolutely
now he's
consistent.
Putting it in writing boldly, you know.
Yeah, and I think that, yes, I think it's true. So you see a lot of the I call them the new woke right that got behind Trump, and you know, we're talking about how he says how he's going to end the wars so quick, and I think he is going to end the war, but it's going to be, what do they call it?
Peace through strength.
Peace through strength.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, yeah. and that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be peace through strength. Trump is not a pushover. He's a deal maker. So I think we're going to see a deal in Russia and Ukraine quite quickly. But his position in Israel is unwavering. And he has, like you said, moral clarity. And he is going to get the job done. And he's going to let Israel get the job done, more importantly. I say good luck to Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. And January 20 can't come fast enough. I think the last 4 years has, you know, all the terrorist organizations, all the evil of the world have had it too easy, and that time is done. Speaking of evil leaders in the world, let's have a listen to, let's hear what, this is from Fox News, it's pretty funny. Have a listen and I'll get your reaction to this.
And tonight we're getting some new details about that Trump-Trudeau dinner from two people who were at the table. We are told that when Trudeau told President-elect Trump that new tariffs would kill the Canadian economy, Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau could become its governor. Brett.
Of more on that detail with the panel. Peter, thank you.
What's your reaction?
I think it's a very viable alternative. You know, the population of Canada, someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, I think is about 38 million people. And there are millions of Canadians completely fed up with the Trudeau regime, wanting change, wanting to make Canada free and strong and great again, and watching on what's happening in the United States with such a sense of envy. Why can't this happen in Canada? So you know what? if there was a referendum for Canada to join the Union, as in the United States, I'd be interested to see what the result is. But I think it's you know. I know it's probably said in jest, but I think for a lot of Canadians, they wouldn't be opposed to the idea. In fact, if you're from Canada, you're watching right now, please go ahead and put your thoughts in the comments. Would you like to join the United States, or would you just prefer to throw your government out and continue to, govern and be part of the Commonwealth?
Yeah, I think a lot might
Let
say,
us
look, I think a lot might say, yeah, we'll come over, but we don't want Trudeau as governor either. Although there is some hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel, I think, for Canada, because they have an awesome leader, and we were talking about that on the first episode. They've got an awesome opposition leader, Pierre
he's a good
Poilievre,
guy. I
who
like him.
is pretty cool. So I think Trump is just having a bit of a laugh and trolling, and basically telling Trudeau that, yeah, mate, your free ride is up. And it's funny how Trudeau travelled to Mar-a-Lago. You know, these are all these leaders that condemned Trump, that made fun of him. What's the saying? You know, first they mock you, and then they end up begging to be your friend. And that's essentially what's happening here.
It's hilarious, and also, like, Mar-a-Lago is, Trump's chill out destination. He's just like making these guys go to him, like, on his schedule. He'll probably be like having a game of golf. All right, fine, I'll sit down with Trudeau, for afternoon tea break and see what he has to say. And Trudeau just really, coming with his tail between his legs. Oh, please don't do this, please don't do that. But how many Canadian dollars has this man flushed down the drain? And
Absolutely.
To what extent has Trudeau put foreign interest instead of Canadian interest? I saw a stat on the migration into Canada. He's blowing the country wide open, and people are getting sick of him. So, his fancy, the kind of what's the right word? The novelty value of his fancy socks have worn off, I'd say.
Yeah, I think they wore off a few weeks into it. I'm surprised he won again during that COVID period, but I think the polls are certainly looking against him now. Let's move on, because I think we're about to wrap up, or we're at least going to move to the YeminiReport.com for those members that are in. Have a quick chat and chat to anyone who jumps on if they want to jump on the YeminiReport.com.
Maybe America should become like the new Roman Empire. What do you reckon, Avi?
Yeah, look, it depends
Under
who's running it. Under Trump, I'm happy. I'm happy for dictator King Trump. There, I've said it on the record. Opposition leader Peter Dutton blames Albanese government for more than $1,000 increase in the energy bill. So, forget about the politics of it. So a year ago, the Albanese government, so the Australian government, the Labor government, promised to cut energy bills by $275. Remember that?
Yeah.
And now it turns out in that period that they promised that we would save $275, we're in fact paying up to $1,000 more. What's your reaction?
Well, it's to be expected. The government that we have here in Australia is more concerned about making decisions that fit an ideological narrative than they are about making decisions that genuinely serve in the interests of the people in this country. And in this instance, of course, we're talking about the net zero platform. So, for as far back as I can remember, I've been an advocate for baseload power and utilizing our natural resources. And it is true, Avi, that the greatest indicator of a country's economic health is the availability of cheap and reliable energy. And that is exactly what the federal government is taking away from us due to these woke policies. So they need to be fought at every angle. Don't trust the government when they say they're going to reduce energy bills. Don't trust the government when they say that somehow, quote, green energy is going to put money back into the pockets of everyday Australians. They've lied to us over and over again. They will continue to lie. And I'll tell you what, Avi, Australians better vote for the right people in the federal election, because otherwise, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think that's an important note, and I think we need to remind people is a year ago they promised us that we would save $275. I don't care about the excuses. And now a year on, it's costing us up to $1,000 more. So not only are we not saving, we're actually almost four times what they promised us we would save, that we're actually coming out of our pockets, which is insane. And that's why there is a cost of living. There are such cost of living pressures, and energy, and for all the reasons that you just mentioned, energy trickles down to everything, because you need energy for everything, whether it's
Everything.
your groceries, to get the trucks to deliver your groceries. At every part of anything that you buy, anything you consume, there's energy that goes into it. So if energy rates go up, everything, absolutely everything goes up. And the government promised us that if we go this renewable path, we'll all be saving money and saving the planet at the same time. It's absolute nonsense. It's making money to a very small group of people that are pushing all this stuff. There are, especially in Australia, we shouldn't have an energy crisis in Australia. I'm more than happy for us to go cleaner energy, but not at the cost of energy, of being able to have reliable, cheaper energy here in Australia, because we literally cannot afford it. And I'm talking about the everyday person plus the government, like everything. The cost of energy costs at every point for everyone.
Well, that's right. And, also these so-called renewable green energy industries, Avi, are only capable of surviving with extraordinary government grants. Okay,
Yeah.
so these industries would never survive purely based on raising capital from the private sector and selling their product with a viable return. No, they need millions upon millions of our taxpayer dollars to get up and running, and then the energy is still not efficient. We still receive these increases to our energy bills. So it's like we're actually paying the government for the privilege of getting punched in the face and spat on, so that our bills are more expensive at the end of the month. Further evidence why we need a Department of Government Efficiency. Further evidence why we need to hand energy over to players in the private sector who are going to compete with each other independently of government grants. Why should we be propping up this inefficient industry that is destroying people's lives? And that's what it is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, let's move on. I got a couple last things to cover.
Yeah,
mate. With this, we alluded to this earlier on in it. Almost to what we've been going. We've actually been doing all right. What are we now? Over an hour and a half already, and almost 6,000 people up here with us. G'day to everyone. And remember, in a few minutes, we're going to move over just solely to the YeminiReport.com. So if you're not a member yet, make sure to sign up so you can actually join us in the conversation there on screen if you want, or just listen in, but also be supporting what I do. City of Whittlesea, Mazel Tov, because, mate, isn't this your mate?
Yeah, there he is.
The new mayor. Who would have thought? The new mayor of Whittlesea. Isn't Whittlesea pretty woke?
Yeah, well, Whittlesea is Labor heartland. It is dead red territory. So what Aiden did was he ran a team of council candidates in every ward. He got elected plus 3 of his teammates, got into council. Based on those numbers alone, didn't have the numbers for the mayor, but was able to put forward a compelling argument, and he's now the mayor. So, this time a month ago, he was knocking on doors, and, the Labor Party didn't see this coming. So he's pulled off an astonishing victory in Labor heartland, and this is big.
It's wild.
What's
what
your
does
reaction
Whittlesea
to this,
what's Whittlesea Council? What areas does that cover?
That's northern suburbs.
The northern suburbs. So the northern suburbs mayor is full on. Is
the mayor.
Old mate. For people who don't know who he is, give us a rundown? I've obviously met him a few times through you. So he was part of the Freedom Party. He was former Freedom Party was running the election with you. Oh, in fact, we did the story recently where he was. There was that. I forgot about this. There was that controversy with him campaigning and Labor, and I think he's having the last laugh here because they were almost mocking him.
Oh, they were mocking him because, Aiden ran on a platform and publicly announced that he was the mayoral candidate, as in, I'm not just running for council, I'm running to become the mayor. And they all laughed at him. And they're like, what do you mean you're running to become the mayor? If you're lucky, you might get a seat in council. And now he's the mayor.
We're going to have to have him on the show, I think.
Over 10 years ago, yeah, you should invite him on.
Well, you can invite him onto our Tuesday nights when suits.
Am I getting replaced already?
No, as a guest. He can be a guest before we bring other people on. But anyways, go on.
He's kicking me out already, folks.
Listen, it's too many Jews in this conversation. I'm joking. No, bring him on as a guest. Anyways, go on.
Harvey, you're what do you get called? Controlled opposition?
Controlled opposition. No, that's Thursday. That's Thursday
you're a
night.
Agent, Harvey. Just tell everyone the truth. Just
the Mossad.
Stop.
Let's throw this one out there. Aiden is one of our assets in Whittlesea Council. But tell us about him. So he was with you guys, and
so he used to go. He was originally a member of a council in Queensland for a couple of terms. He was elected to the Queensland State Parliament. That was over 10 years ago. He ran for us in 2022 in Mulgrave against the Premier at the time, Dan Andrews, shortly after he resigned from the party and, put his head down, worked hard and prepared, really well and ran a fantastic campaign, got elected, became the mayor, and now is the mayor in what's referred to as a dead red Labor area. It's incredible. It's beautiful.
So wild. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, send him out. Congratulations, and we'll have him on to tell us about once he gets things going there. I'm sure he's going to be running on
another point real quick, if I may, Avi, and that is that Freedom Party, the party that I head up, 4 of our former candidates actually got elected to local council, and dozens of other people who share similar views were also elected to councils all across Victoria. So for everyone at home who maybe thought that, what's the point of politics? Everything stays the same. It will only stay the same to the extent that citizens are willing to be complacent and to consume whatever it is that they're served by the powers to be. But what took place in the council election is undeniable proof that with dedication, hard work, and most importantly, keeping faith and belief, you can make a difference in this country. And believe me, I'm going to put in a big effort in the federal election and the state election in 2026. I'm telling everyone in party, watch out. Everyone in parliament, watch out. We're coming.
I think it is a major boost, and I'd add to that. I think that people need to understand that local council is probably the most important starting point. You look at a lot of the the woke agenda is actually getting pushed at that level of government. In your local libraries, you look at all the what do they call the transgender reading story times for kids, like all that crazy nonsense starts at local level. So grassroots, you really want to fight back to all these issues that matter. Get involved and get involved successfully at council level, and that's where you get your experience as well. Like once you start at council, you know how it all works. You get your connections, to work up. But it's time, really, I think, to take back the power from those that have held it for so many years, especially in this communist state of Victoria. And this does give me hope. It gives me a lot of hope. And I'm glad to hear that it's not just Aiden and his group, and that there's, how many did you say from the Freedom Party that got in now?
4 former Freedom Party state candidates were elected, but I know of dozens more people who hold similar political views all across the state. So in my ward, in my LGA local government area, 4 people just in my area who hold similar political views that I would say are on the side of control, of smaller government, personal freedom, that type of thing. They were elected, so that's a good day in the office.
Fantastic. All right, before we move on to the private, the YeminiReport.com, I just want to hit this last issue that's come up today. Wild. Let's just quickly watch this 24 seconds and I'll get your reaction.
Australia's largest bank will start charging customers for withdrawing their own money. Commonwealth Bank has announced it'll slug customers $3 for taking out cash at its branches, post offices or by phone, despite insisting it has no plans to go cashless. It comes as the company reveals it spent $410 million on cash services last financial year. Australia's
reaction.
Well, first of all, that's just not competitive. So people dealing in cash and consumers of the Commonwealth Bank, you might want to reevaluate your personal banking situation, because it's just it's unheard of. And to say that they have no intention of scrapping cash, well, it really begs the question: why are they charging such a fee? It appears to me that the Commonwealth Bank, and I'm just theorizing here, right, for everyone at home, I don't know what the real motivation is for this $3 fee. Maybe they're struggling on their books and they're trying to raise money the same way.
They're not struggling on their books, because their last year was
like bleeding, blood from a stone.
They're not struggling. We know that because they made a lot of money last year. So it's all struggle.
Well, they did, but they always want a little bit more. But what could be another reason is, by discouraging their depositors to pull out cash, it may serve in the investment interests of the bank regarding different types of projects or assets the bank could be managing at the time. So there could be some other motives for wanting to discourage the withdrawal of cash. It's hard to know exactly, but I would say that it's a bad sign and one that people who value cash should reconsider who they bank with.
It's shocking. The idea that you're going to get charged, that's legal theft, if it is even legal. I don't understand how that's legal to charge $3 to pull money out of an ATM. It's shocking.
Well, it's a service. I mean,
it's
better
your
or
own
worse,
money.
Private business, they can charge whatever they want, but it's also the consumer's choice if they want to do business with them.
Sure, but if all the banks follow, hold on a second. I think that there's a line here, and the consumers need to be protected. I personally think that this is something where legislation matters, and I don't think that it should be legal to charge that exorbitant, such a massive fee for people to pull out their own money from an account through a machine. That should be part of a banking service. Cash is legal tender. It all looks to me, it seems like there is someone pushing for cashless society because it benefits them, and it might not be this grand conspiracy. Like, the bank may see it and go, yes, we want to be cashless because cash actually is a part of their business that probably costs them the most to operate. I understand that, but because you're getting all this other business and you're making so much money, and the reason why I'm saying they're not struggling, because they have to publish each year and they're making billions, is so they want to cut the one service that matters. And I think that we need to ensure that, just like legal tender should be protected as a currency, and that there is no way that it needs to be protected, that people are going to be able to always spend cash. And it has been a worrying direction that we've been going down, where those, and I'm not someone, like, I don't use that much cash because it's just like, I can't be bothered. But I know a lot of people who do. My wife loves cash. There's a lot of, and a lot of people just, it is legal tender and we have the right to use it. And there's a lot of people, for good reason, who don't even trust banks with their money. So the idea that we're heading in this direction, that they're trying to make it harder and harder to use cash on every level, I think we need to push back. And I think you're right. I think, people that are using the Commonwealth Bank, the best way, just like we saw yesterday with the Chinese-owned 200 pubs across the country who tried to cancel Australia Day, and the customer review essentially made them walk it back. I think if enough people from the Commonwealth Bank let their bank know that they will leave because of this fee, then maybe it will go back. Maybe they will. Otherwise, if it doesn't, if they don't reverse it, I can promise you now, the Commonwealth Bank will not be the last to do that, and it will become impossible to use cash.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think that it's fairly fair to assume that this decision has been made in the financial interest of the bank, okay, or what they perceive to be its financial interest. So the only way to counter that is for lots of pressure to be put on the Commonwealth Bank by Commonwealth Bank customers. So pressure to reverse the decision or leaving the services behind of the Commonwealth Bank, which will create the opposite effect of the intention of creating some type of advantageous financial position. So that's, I would say, the only way the bank could be convinced to drop this program, and that's with pressure from their customers. Without that, it's gonna stay in place. So this is an opportunity, I think, for another bank to come forward, publish a statement, tell the Australian public and your customers that you will never impose $3 fees for withdrawing cash. And if ANZ or Bendigo or National comes out and makes such a statement, they may receive an influx of customers. So
That's a good point.
Calling on the banking world, put it out there. Tell the Australian public that you will not impose such fees for withdrawing cash and reap the rewards, and you're welcome for the free advice.
It's true.
That's great advice right there, Harvey.
Yes. Look, I don't know how much it costs them to operate it, and I wonder what calculations they're doing, but I can't imagine turning it into a marketing campaign to gain all this business. It could be a bad thing, although they all seem to protect each other, even though they're in competition. They also work together.
It's like calling more words in a way.
That's why when the interest rates go up, it immediately goes up in all the banks, and when they drop, they all seem to talk to each other and agree, no, let's not drop it together. Let's take our time on this. There's one comment that I have to bring up before we move over to the YeminiReport.com. I brought it up, but you missed it. My DEI hire, Rukshan Fernando, on Thursday nights, who he co-hosts with me out of charity on Thursday nights. And you guys, you can go see that at the opposition.show this Thursday night, 7 p.m. This is Tuesday nights is the Yemini Report with my lovely co-host here, Morgan Jonas, who, by the way, Morgan, before we move over to the Yemini Report, I'll get you to tell people I have to physically cancel all of those other ones before we go there, but you'll tell people where to find us, to find you.
Yes.
But Rukshan, what's your response to him thinking we need another person of colour here because you and I, are too white?
What was that?
What would you say to Rukshan, who thinks we're too white?
So, first of all, Avi is not white. Maybe too white for some people's taste, and that could be a criticism held in the minds of certain people out there in the community. But it's pretty diverse in that regard. But I think that Rukshan he's maybe got a little bit of FOMO. That's an acronym for fear of missing out. So I think he's just a little bit salty that he's not on the show today, and I've taken his chair. So
he's got a new show.
Don't worry, man. You'll be back soon. Like everything's gonna be okay.
He launched a new show. You know, I told you he copies everything I do. He launched a new show.
I actually want to tune in and watch it. Where can I
last
find
night.
It?
So he does it. I think he does it on his on his X. It was on Facebook and YouTube. He just goes live.
Rukshan, if you're looking for a co-host, just letting you know that I'm available.
No, don't. You can't co-host. He's literally doing it by himself because he doesn't have any other friends but me. Like it's hilarious. Like people
claim a monopoly over Rukshan's friendship. You can't.
I'm telling you now.
You're just criticizing banks for forming a quasi monopoly, and now you're promoting your own monopoly.
I'm telling you now.
Unbelievable.
Rukshan Fernando, the real Rukshan. Yes, he has copped a lot, and
from you mostly.
for being friends with me. But what people don't realize is
that's
I
true.
am his only friend. So stop hurting him. Stop hurting him. Let Rukshan live.
You can't claim ownership of a human being, Arby. You just this is not ancient Egypt. We're not here to own people.
Look at that. Look how quickly I
hate
lost
to
Daniel.
break
Look
this
how
to
quickly
you.
I lost Daniel. He's already moved over.
Daniel said that he'd sit in on Rukshan's
I know.
podcast. Yeah.
Does Rukshan need some tissue?
Rukshan is loved. I held 2 speaking events last year with big audiences, and the biggest round of applause at my speaking events was when Rukshan walked out.
When he walked out, when he left, or when he came on?
When he walked out onto the stage. Oh, and when he left. Yeah. But introducing Rukshan and saying goodbye to Rukshan, that's when the audience was definitely the loudest. So,
Oh, God. All right. So, guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. We are going to move on now to the YeminiReport.com. That's where you and I, Morgan, and anyone who moves over to there is welcome to join us. You have to become Rebel News Plus members if you're not already members. Just follow. So go to the YeminiReport.com, click the button to this episode. The live is going to continue there only. So whatever other platform you're watching on now is going to end in a moment. And on that live, below it, there is a button where you can join the conversation. So it's going to be just members, nice, intimate group. We're always going to end the show there. Also on Thursday nights, we're going to do something similar. So the Opposition podcast also does it on that URL where it gives us a chance, firstly, for you and I just to wrap up on the session. And if there's anyone that wants to join in on the conversation, they'll be welcome to do so. Before I move over to that, Morgan, just let people know where they can follow and find you. What are the platforms?
Okay, all platforms: Facebook, Telegram, X, Instagram, YouTube. My username is the same. One word, Morgan C. Jonas. So I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, and you can find me on those platforms at Morgan C. Jonas. Thank you, Avi.
There we go. And don't go anywhere because you're 100% you're with me. So guys, just so you see, it is here, the YeminiReport.com. It'll take you to this landing page.
There we are.
Click on this one here, which is the last episode. So it's the top one. That's where we're continuing. Oh, crap. There we go. It's live now. Just press the live button. But you'll only see this if you're a member. If you're not a member, it'll make you sign up. And then
can I get a complimentary membership, Avi? Or
we'll organise a membership for you so you can join us on Thursday nights. And then you hit this, once you're a member, you hit this join the show button and it'll take you to the spot for joining us in the show. And like Daniel did earlier, guys, I'm going to take a second just to cancel all the other ones. It was lovely to have you on tonight. All 6,100 we got tonight. That's great start for the public shows. Yeah. Make sure to put your bookmark, your reminders, Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. I'll see all the members on the other one in a couple of minutes. You can keep talking while I do this. That's you, Morgan. You talk. I'm ending the stream. I'm ending these streams while you
live,
talk.
Are we?
We're live.
Yeah. So if you had a good time watching the broadcast, then say something in the comments. Give some feedback. Express your thoughts on this show. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it engaging? Was it boring? Because what's important is that you're getting value from this. So no value, then what's the point? We may as well just all pack up shop and go and do something else. So I can see the YouTube comments there. I see a lot of you. There's Linda Hunter, Eric, someone called Sweet Shot asking how much does it cost? How much does it cost to sign up to Rebel Plus, Arby?
I think there's different options there, but it's the monthly one I think is $8 a month, and it gives you full access to everything there, including documentaries and other shows. But $8 a month, and you're supporting what we do at Rebel News, as well as having that personal interaction. So we're going to make it as engaging as possible.